I think it's fair to say that Overwatch 2 might be the most important game release in Blizzard's history. The expectations are huge, and there's an entire esports league and millions of investment dollars riding on this game's success. Now, finally, we can play the game, the multiplayer part at least, and we've got the change to 5v5, the new heroes, and this new monetization model, along with the new mode, which in my opinion might be the best part of Overwatch 2. But does this game do enough? And why are people so frustrated about the new model? That's what I'm here to talk about, so let's dive in. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to remind you all to touch grass, and if that reminder seems pretty important to you, slap it on your body on one of theScore Esports' new hoodies. Yeah, we've got a Touch Grass hoodie, but we've got a lot of other merch as well that we think you'll enjoy. I'll throw the link in the description for you so you can check it out for yourself. And again, don't forget to touch some grass. So again, to be clear, the Overwatch 2 that released on October 4th is not the full game. I mean, not really. You might remember the initial announcement of the game nearly 3 years ago that said it would be a standalone buy-to-play title with a PvE mode. It was also confirmed at that time that if you owned Overwatch 1, you could continue playing Overwatch 2 with all the heroes you already owned, but you wouldn't get new ones or the PvE content that was slated to be released with Overwatch 2. Well, since then, things have changed a bit. Sure, you still have all your old heroes if you owned Overwatch 1, which is great. But now Overwatch 2 is a free-to-play Battle Pass-based game that'll get PvE content sometime in 2023. That delay is part of the reason that it's so hard to gauge Overwatch 2. I mean, the PvE content was touted as such a huge part of the game initially, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. The change to free-to-play, on the other hand, brought with it a fair amount of controversy. For one, if you never owned the first game, then you get a modified new user experience in Overwatch 2. That experience slowly unlocks the heroes and other features and is supposed to help ease new players into the game gradually. Not everybody was happy about that though. Thankfully, if you're partied up with another player, the hero restrictions do go out the window, so you can play any of the initial batch of heroes. Although you still can't queue for competitive, you have to unlock that on its own. There was also the insistence by Blizzard that players register a phone number to their account in order to play Overwatch 2, which left prepaid phone customers by the wayside. It makes sense to persuade players to treat others respectfully, but if the cost is leaving out a lot of enthusiastic players, I'm just not sure that's worth it. Blizzard have since taken steps to authorize accounts that are older than a couple months without a phone number, but people are still going to be left out here. And obviously we have a move away from a buy-to-play model towards a free-to-play battle pass, at least for now. I'm assuming that the PvE content will be a separate purchase or maybe drip-fed to players. It's not entirely clear, they just say 2023. So in that way, I guess it's similar, but with an added battle pass. The battle pass too is a source of frustration. Besides the obvious fear of missing out elements of any battle pass, the heroes that get released in the future will be part of it, and you'll need to unlock the battle pass to actually play as those heroes. Now, it is on the free track of the battle pass, and this battle pass allows premium customers or people who owned Overwatch 1 to simply have Kiriko, the new hero, at the outset. But still, it's kind of frustrating compared to how things used to be. Now, from a purely pragmatic standpoint, I think free-to-play kind of makes sense for Overwatch 2 because they need to bring in new players and retain them if they want the game to succeed, and an entry cost of $0 makes that somewhat more likely. Obviously, I'd prefer to just buy the game once. I know, crazy, right? That's how things used to be. You just bought the game once, but I'll have to relegate that to the distant dreams of my childhood, along with Blockbuster Video and tearaway pants, I guess. And of course, if you've tried to play the game in the last 48 hours, you've almost certainly run into a queue, been disconnected from the queue, been disconnected from the game after waiting in the queue. It's really not a good situation. Sure, Blizzard has said that they were DDoSed, but let's be honest, there are probably a lot of people interested enough to try this game, but who aren't so excited about it that they'll make the hours-long pilgrimage to the main menu. We did get some quality memes out of the deal, though. Blizzard really needs some good press, and logistically, at least this launch so far, hasn't been that. And as I said earlier, they need this game to succeed. So does it. It's pretty hard to review a game when it feels so much like its predecessor, but it's doubly so when a huge portion of the development time that went into this title seemingly isn't represented in the game that we're playing right now. When I say that, I mean that the more than 3 years of development on Overwatch 2 didn't just create the multiplayer we're now playing. A lot of work, I assume, was put in on PvE aspects of the game that aren't even playable yet. Okay, but what about the stuff we've actually got in front of us right now? The shift to 5v5, dropping a tank from Overwatch 1, was maybe the most worrying thing about this entire release, and while I do think there are a lot of great aspects, there are still some things to work out. The maps that are new to Overwatch 2 feel as if they were designed for 5v5. With only one tank on each team, you can't just stand behind the rectangle man. You have to find your own cover a lot of the time, and that's built into the maps. Things are pretty fluid, and you can't rely on somebody to just protect you now, so things like awareness, flanking, and peeling for others just are more important. The older maps, though, do still feel like they were designed for 2 tanks. Like that choke point on King's Row at the very beginning. It was a grinder in Overwatch 1, but now it's like a shooting gallery, it feels like. And too many of these old maps just kind of feel like long lanes with some limited flanking opportunities and minimal cover, which kind of clashes with the new speed and fluidity of the game. While there's only 1 tank per team now, they honestly feel like they pack the power of 2 into the one body. Tanks feel more like mini bosses now while they have mitigation active, and with the crowd control in this game drastically toned down from the previous one, it's not even easy to stop them temporarily. Tanks also feel like they have a disproportionate amount of influence on how your team actually plays the objectives. Like if you have a tank that's a Winston or a Wrecking Ball, and all they do is dive the enemy backline, you're on your own, so you better play like it. Having only 1 tank puts supports in an interesting position though. Sure, you're still going to need to heal that 1 tank, maybe more than previously, but theoretically you should be able to find some more opportunities to contribute damage too. Overall, I think the swap to 5v5 is actually going to be really good for the game, but there are still some aspects of map and hero design that could be tweaked to make it even better. Speaking of heroes, Overwatch 2 brings in 3 new heroes, rebalances the old heroes, and in addition to that, some heroes have even swapped roles, like Doomfist becoming a tank. I didn't get to try the new support hero Kiriko too much, but she seems to put out quite a lot of sustained healing while offering accurate damage and defensive mobility. Junker Queen is an absolute force on the front lines, offering a flexible option for absorbing and dishing out damage. But for me, Sojourn was the absolute highlight of these new heroes. I'd always wanted another hero like Soldier 76, but one that offered some limited long-range options instead of utility. Sojourn's combination rifle and railgun does exactly that, and her slide allows her to get out of or into trouble quickly. She's not a true sniper, but instead a capable skirmisher that can pressure the backline, find new sight lines, and get out alive.
This ends now.
Plus, she's Canadian, I'm a bit biased, I can admit that. I'm a bit less excited about a lot of the reworks to existing heroes though. Sure, Bastion is actually fun to play now, but while I understand that they had to take the Flashbang, a much hated crowd control ability, away from newly renamed Cowboy Cassidy, the replacement ability that he got instead is just boring and forgettable. I get that they can't give it the impact of the Flashbang, I suppose that's the reason the Flashbang was removed, but something just feels like it's missing. I'd rather whip out a second gun for 6 shots, give my shots the ability to ricochet, drop a smoke screen, like anything but the standard old rote, I chuck a grenade. Still, I think these new character designs show that there's plenty of milk left in the old design cow. But balance, in my opinion, is kind of another story. Right now, with 1 tank per side and so much crowd control removed from the game, Dive feels pretty strong. Winston does a lot of damage, he's hard to kill, he can get out quickly. The same goes for Genji, who is not a tank, but is far more frustrating to play against. And frankly, at this point, I'm sure people are playing a lot of things because the game just came out, they want to try new stuff, see what's cool. But I think in the short to long term, this could become an issue. Now, is it slightly better that in Overwatch 2, instead of shooting 2 giant red energy shields, I'm potentially only shooting 1, or maybe even the tank themselves? Yeah, it's better. I confess it's better. But if those shots hitting the tank aren't really doing much damage anyways, which kind of seems to be the case with the new balance changes, it's pretty similar in some ways too. I'm sure balance is, as always, a work in progress. But I want to move on and talk about the new game mode in Overwatch 2, Push, which in my opinion is the best thing they added to the game ever, actually. Maybe analogous in spirit to Team Fortress 2's Payload Race, Push has both teams fighting over a robot. You get control by being near it, and then it pushes this little barricade thing and starts advancing it up the map. Your progress is permanent, but if your opponents get control of the big guy, they're gonna push their own barricade. It's sort of like a tug of war. These maps feel the most like a Team Fortress 2 match that I've ever experienced in Overwatch, and I mean that as a positive comment. It's a good thing. The spawns do change as the barricade advances far enough up the map. That can be a little disorienting, but I think it's something that players will adjust to. But beyond that, I was impressed by how much this new mode changes the flow of the game. Sure, you can still stack all your ults to wipe out the enemy team and get control of the robot, but when you get to your barricade, you still have to successfully push it. So you have to think a little bit more carefully about how to invest resources, because it's not just about winning one fight and getting guaranteed progress on the objective. Even if you win the fight and get control of the robot, you need to maintain that control for a while. Since your progress sticks, and every yard could matter, the fights to keep pushing feel worthwhile and exciting. I'm sure there are probably some issues that I didn't discover or experience, but for me, this is the real bright spot of Overwatch 2. This is a great mode, more of this, please. Okay, so where does all of this leave Overwatch 2 right now? Well, I'd say if there was nothing appealing about Overwatch 1 to you, that's probably still the case for Overwatch 2. The formula is mostly intact. If you enjoyed the game generally in the past but got tired of shooting at red rectangles, then I do think some positive changes were made here, and in any case it's free, so you could just give it a shot, and if you don't like it, no harm, no foul. Assuming, of course, that you can actually log into the game, which I hope will be improved as soon as possible. What we've got here, though, is still a shadow of the game that was announced nearly 3 years ago. I love the new maps and the new mode. 5v5 ended up being a good decision in my opinion, and Sojourn is just so fun to play. I love her. But did we need an entirely new game for those things? I guess we won't get our answer until we see what the actual PvE content is in 2023.
Thanks for watching. If you want more content like this, then hit the sub button and ring the notification bell. For unique bite-sized videos you won't find anywhere else, hit up our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.